everyone. Welcome back to the It's a Mind Game podcast. Today I have my fabulous friend Claudia joining me on today's episode. I think this is your third or fourth appearance, my beautiful friend.
I think that it's my fourth.
Oh.
I've lost count, but it's like a weekly, monthly catch up with you. It's not even being part of the podcast. It's just that I love having our conversations.
I do thoroughly enjoy our chats, and no doubt this one is going to be beneficial for all of our listeners because the topic's actually come up after a few Instagram messages I've received, and that's around what's the point of recovering your period or recovering from HA if you already have children or if you just don't want to have children? Because the common thing is, oh my goodness, got to get my period back. I want to start a family. And then sort of the pressure's on, the clock's ticking, all those sorts of things. But if you don't feel like you've got that pressure or that clock ticking, what's the big motivator there? And what have you, experienced personally and also with clients and found to be the motivating factor for them?
Look, normally when I get a new client, this is possibly the first question that I ask her is, for how long have you tried to get your period back? And then, why do you want to get your period back? And normally the answer is, because having a period is healthy. Okay, but why is it healthy? And that's because I want to suss out their level of knowledge when it comes to not having a menstrual cycle. It is described as the fifth vital sign for good reasons. So I noticed that most of the women that come to me is because they want to have children, they want to have a second baby or their first baby, sometimes even the third and the fourth, and they've been dealing with hypothalamic amenorrhea for all their life. And we all know that infertility is a big issue, and of course is caused by the lack of a menstrual cycle, because we need estrogen and progesterone to ovulate and then to have a period and then to conceive. But if we look at all the other things that can happen when we have a low level of estrogen, it's quite scary. And I would like to start with a very, very hot topic. So one of the most common symptoms that the women that I see suffer from is low sex drive and also dyspareunia, which is pain during intercourse. Which is normally caused by a low level of estrogen that changes the pH of the vagina, changes the urethra, so makes it a little bit thinner. And also, obviously, there is a drop in the sexual hormones, which is why the woman doesn't feel the drive. And when she forces herself to have to have sex with the partner, then it's also quite painful. So the two things in combination can also cause mental discomfort, if I'm making sense. Have you ever come across this in your clinical practice of women dealing with,
and it's, I've come across it on multiple levels because there's definitely the hormones that play a part in it. And also just the fact of not being able to, quote unquote, get in the mood because someone is just so self-conscious about their body. And it's interesting because, for the most part, a lot of women who get HA have lost weight and to a degree feel better about their body than they ever have, but they're also the most critical of themselves that they've ever been. So I can relate that situation in two elements, which is one, absolutely the estrogen side of things, where they're just not producing lubricating hormones in order to, be able to enjoy sex, but also just the side of HA that is you're so self-conscious that you can't even enjoy yourself if you wanted to, because the idea of being seen in an exposed way is just debilitating. Like it's not possible. We can't do it. There's too many things to critique and criticize. Have you seen that with some of your clients that, there's that physical and emotional side, I guess, when it comes to being intimate with people or partners?
Pretty much 99% of the time. And I posted something on Instagram the other day because I had this fabulous client. She suffered from an eating disorder for 20 years. She didn't have sex with a partner for 15 years. She finally recovered. And that was the first time that she had sex in 15 years. Wow. So that goes to show how much, how our mindset and our hormones can play a role during sex and when having an intimate relationship or when having a relationship with our partner. And also something else that we need to consider, if you have hypothalamic amenorrhea and if you have disordered thoughts, if you don't like your body, at the same time, because that goes hand in hand, you may be experiencing some level of fatigue because, let's face it, exercise early in the morning, not eating enough calories throughout the day, that of course you're going to feel fatigued by the end of the day, which is normally when people tend to have sex because it's when people are in the house at the same time. Plus, if you exercise a lot and restrict your caloric intake, cortisol level goes up. When the cortisol level peaks, it takes up to 3 to 4 hours to go down. During that window, testosterone, oxytocin, and estrogen falls. And we need oxytocins to feel that bonding with someone else. That can be a child, that can be a partner, that can be anyone that we love, really. Plus headaches when dealing with hypothalamic amenorrhea, they're real, they're very common. So it's not that you have a headache, which is why you don't want to have sex. You have a headache because you have a headache, which is linked to low level of estrogen. So you see, and it's not only about getting the period back, but it's all these things are intertwined and can actually make you feel stuck in a life that is pretty miserable. And sometimes it's very hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, isn't it?
I love how you just mentioned the oxytocin side of things and how, it helps us connect to whether it be our partner, our children, other family members, or even friends. And the timing of this is just bizarre because I was actually speaking to a client this morning and she has children already. And she turned around and said, things with my body are still a struggle. Like I'm consciously learning to, just love and accept this body that I'm in and know that it's not permanent. But it just made my heart sing because she turned around and she goes, but I thought I missed the mum gene. I thought I just didn't have it in me to be a mum and have that real like glorious, adoring nature. And she starts telling me how since she's reduced her exercise and since she's started like eating and actually nourishing herself more, she loves being a mum. Like she has that connection to her child. And oh my gosh, I'm such a sook. But like if you're
I love it because you cry every single time that we do a podcast.
Oh my gosh.
That goes to show that you care
I
a lot.
feel so vulnerable with you because I know you're emotional like I am because now you're crying. But no, it's really beautiful to sit there and hear someone say like, they're not planning on having more kids. They're happy with their family, but to sit there and go like, okay, I'm not happy with my body and I don't have my period back yet because I'm frustrated about that. But the beauty in it is that I love being a mum and I can really enjoy it in a way that I never could. And I said to her, I'm like, but do you think that's because you were just so tired? Like you didn't have any energy left to care and love and all those sorts of things because you were too busy thinking about the next meal or the next training session. And she goes, yeah, I had no brain space for it. And she goes, and I wanted to, like I knew I wanted to, and I just dismissed it. I just thought, I love my child, but I just don't have that mum gene. And she goes, and it just wasn't the case. I was just so depleted and tired and, hungry. And then all of a sudden you start to satiate and start to rest, and this whole new being comes to fruition. And, everyone's on a different journey. And for some people, they might go, I just don't want kids. But if you're a parent right now or a guardian of a young child and sometimes you feel that disconnect, it's like that's a magical part of investing in your health and getting your period back, because it's just not about the period. It's how everything flourishes, including your relationships and including your ability to feel love and show love. Like it's such an important part of life that keeps us like vital and excited and happy. And if we don't have these connections in our life, what do we have? Like there's such a big important part, and it just makes it sad to think that we have the potential to dismiss such wonderful connections with friends and family over the chase of fitness. Which what does that even mean, fitness? And I'm sure you'd go through this a lot with your clients on finding their whys. It's like, what's motivating you to be healthy? Okay, well, what does healthy look like? And a lot of the times people can't answer that. How would you define health, Claudia? What do you sort of say with your clients?
Oh God, that's such a big question. But I just wanted to add something before I go ahead and answer. I had a chat with a client this morning, and she was a football player, then a runner, and now she's lifting weight. And she said, before lifting weight, I just go for a quick run around the block just to warm up. And my question for her was, why do you do that? You're already lifting weight, so why are you going for that run? Well, because that's all I've done until now. I need to run to get fit. So it's also sometimes the disconnection, not only with the people around us, but also with ourselves. We are not present enough to discern what we like and what we don't like, to the point that we act on behaviors simply because we think that it's the right things to do because it has been dictated by society or by our past behaviors. And we completely lose connection with who we are and what we really like as human beings. And if you think about it in this way, from this perspective, it is quite a miserable place where to be. And going back to your question, what is health? Obviously, there is a definition where health is being in homeostasis with your body, have all the fifth vital signs, like the body temperature and the menstrual cycle and the blood pressure in the correct order and so on and so forth. To me, health is being able to have the energy to do the things that I want to do, to being able to live most of my life pain-free, because pain is part of life. You're always gonna face pain in a way or another. Can be menstrual cramps or can be a muscle injury. But health is being able to connect also on a mental level with other people, being able also to say what you want and stick your gun. It's also respecting yourself and respecting others and respecting your body. So I don't think that health is just a physical concept, but it encompasses all your life. And health can be also a very spiritual concept. So it really depends who I'm talking to when I have to answer this question. But what is health for you, really?
I was hoping you wouldn't redirect the question because no,
It's
just
a tough one.
It's such a big thing because I think it's so much more than like your physical body. I think it's so much more than that, and how you touched on spiritual side of things too, and encompassing boundaries and being able to identify what it is that actually makes you happy. And I'm so glad you touched on what you did, which is, for a lot of us, when we start our health and fitness journey, we are just so excited to be doing all these new training principles and new diets. And it's fun. There's a novelty to it. Your body's changing. People are commenting. And somewhere along the line, it changes into, but I can't not go to the gym, and I can't not diet, and I can't not let people know that I'm not dieting and training. And so it starts off as freedom of choice, which is, I can't wait to go to the gym, and I'm going to run today, or I'm going to lift today, or I'm going to have the salad for lunch. And it does start like really fun and liberating. But by the time we get to the spot where we've got HA, for the most part, we don't have that freedom of choice anymore. It's, I don't know how to live any other way. And for me, regardless of whether you want to have children or not, one of the biggest parts of recovering your period has actually got nothing to do with your period at all. It's being able to witness what you like, why you like it, and being able to openly say what you want and construct your life around what makes you happy versus what you think makes other people happy. Because that's at the core of it, isn't it? It's like the biggest obstacles we come up with ourselves in our own journey and with women that we're speaking with is, what are people going to think of me? And what you think about yourself is so much more important than anything else. But it's so hard to get there. It's like, it's a really tough thing. And once you do, it's fabulous because you can just own every single decision and it makes you happy. But at the start, there is that element of, I'm going to disappoint people. And if you're living your life thinking if you don't do something, you're disappointing people, you're letting yourself down every day.
But you're going to disappoint people no matter what, because there are plenty of studies right now that goes to show that 1 out of 5 people that you met on a daily, weekly, monthly basis are not going to like you, no matter what you do, no matter how you talk to them, no matter who you are, they're not going to like you. So it's better for you to stop trying to please others and start tuning in with yourself. And you said it before, health is also freedom of choice. And I completely agree with that, because when you start restricting your caloric intake, you start going to the gym just because you want to change your body and so on and so forth. It's fun, it's beautiful. You think that you have control over something, but the reality is that your disordered thoughts are taking control over you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not free anymore. You're putting yourself into a cage. And there is actually something that I wanted to share with you, and that was the nudge that I needed to recover. So few years back, so I think that was 5 years ago, I was speaking to my dietitian, and we're like trying to change my diet and reduce my running routine and so on and so forth. And then she said, Claudia, you know that you're gonna be less smart if you keep eating and exercising this way. And now I don't want to brag, but I have 2 universities degrees, a master degree, and I speak 4 languages.
4?
So 4. So not fluently, but I speak 4 languages.
No, I'm just, that's incredible. It's wow.
I value my brain a lot. So as I said before, it's not bragging, it's just that it's something that I really value. Like other people value family, money, whatever. I value my brain. As soon as she told me that, as soon as I made the connection that low level of estrogen and hypothalamic amenorrhea was taking that away from me, that's it. That was where I drew a line, but no one told me before. So how can we make informed decision if we're not educated enough to make a decision? Because if you don't talk to an expert, if you don't talk to a professional, then you're not gonna, if you don't listen to this podcast, possibly you will live your life without knowing that HA can actually affect your brain power.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
I'm so glad that you brought that up. And one, thank you so much for sharing that story. And I'm already in awe over how intelligent and amazing you are as a woman, but then you just blew my mind even more with languages and more degrees. And yeah, you're just, wow. Wow. I feel like I needed to know that information before I heard it. I'm so blown away. That's incredible. But I love what you said though about not knowing things, because a big part of me sort of shrugging off HA recovery was I thought the only repercussion of not having my period was not having my period. There was no bone density issues. There was no brain integrity issues or anything like that. And it wasn't until, gosh, probably a year ago. It was really recent. And I mean, my goodness, I've been recovered for over 2 years now. And I learned that there's a higher chance of having dementia as a result of a missing period and loss of estrogen. And I was just shaken to my core, because while not necessarily my intelligence, but my memory is really important to me, like really important. And just how you were saying there, you heard that about your like the brain capacity shifting, and you just went, oh, wow, like I need to do something about this. I'm not willing to let that go. And I honestly thought to myself, like, one, I cannot believe I've put myself in a position where I'm at a higher risk of dementia, because that is a cruel, awful disease. And two, if someone had have told me that in my early 20s, I honestly believe that would have made me think about what I was doing to myself. Because at the time I thought I couldn't have kids, and it didn't have that much of a hold on me. It was just like, oh, well, it's just not meant to be, whatever. And but the dementia, that rocks me to my core, because, that's not something that only affects you, but that affects your whole family. And a way I like to make decisions and live my life at the moment is like, as an individual, the decisions I make are almost like I'm my own community. I need to make decisions that my present self and future self will thank me for. And it's sometimes we don't think that way. It's always just right now or later. And the thing is, back then, if I had have gone, oh, look, I'm training and I'm dieting and yeah, I'm fit and strong. Okay, my right now is happy, but is my 80-year-old self going to be happy with dementia? Like potentially, because I'm letting this health condition go, or should I be making decisions right now that are going to put that as a lower risk? And because I didn't have the ability to see myself as a community, i.e., present and future, I never knew to have that sort of thought and conversation with myself. So I'm going to start waffling, but I guess what I'm saying to anyone listening to this podcast right now, despite whether you want to have children, you already have children, think about the health effects that could occur in the future as a result of not having your cycle. And is your current decisions in life going to make your present self and future self happy? Because the other side of the switch is, okay, let's say you're training a lot and you're dieting a lot and you go, oh, but I'm really happy doing what I'm doing. And you could be, yes. But let's go shoot you forward to 80 years old and you're looking back at your 20 or 30-year-old self. Are you going to sit there being grateful that you missed out on social events to go to the gym? Are you going to be happy that you didn't eat birthday cake at your grandma's 80th birthday because you're on a diet? Like, are you going to look back at this period of time and be so thrilled with every decision you made? And if you are, like, cool. But I think for the most part, if you can take that perspective, there'll be a few things you'd go, oh, maybe my future self wouldn't be so happy about that.
And that's something that I'm trying also to teach my 4 years old daughter at the moment. Every single action as a consequence or as repercussion in the future. And this sounds very true to me. And when it comes to people saying that, yeah, I'm so happy now, even though I have HA, but that's just a surface level answer. Because when you start to dig a little bit deeper, as you said, they miss out on social events. They don't like their body. Doesn't matter how fit they are. They are depriving themselves from birthday cake. They are dealing with anxiety because, yes, low level of estrogen has been shown to cause Alzheimer's disease more in female than in men, because men, they have testosterone, which in the brain gets converted in estrogen even when they get older, which is why women tend to have Alzheimer's disease more than men. It's always unfair to be a woman, isn't it? But anyway, it also interferes with the production of serotonin and dopamine, which are the feel-good hormones. So you're saying, I feel happy, exercising is my therapy, but therapy is therapy, exercising is exercising. And if you are so happy and so content where you are, my question is, why are you even listening to this podcast?
And why do you need exercise as therapy?
Yeah.
If you're so happy.
What else is going on?
Mm.
Right. Are you feeling anxious? Is that why you're exercising? But where is the anxiety coming from? Because depriving your brain from the glucose that it needs, interfering with the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine that I just talked about, that can cause anxiety in itself. You can be the most relaxed person in the entire universe without a worry and still experience anxiety because your body is not functioning in an optimal way. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the most common thing that is brought up throughout HA recovery and eating disorder recovery is how many women and men, for that matter, this is not a women only one, is that if you are undernourished, you are feeling in a state of panic all the time. And sometimes you feel that way so often that you don't know that you're feeling it anymore because you are just in that heightened state of anxiety and panic and fear all the time. And that's a dangerous thing in itself. But I guess for the point of this conversation anyway, it's a lot of people sort of start to accept that they've got anxiety because it's who I am, and they take it on as an identity. I am anxious. I get stressed. I have social anxiety. And yet they start to feel better. They start to rest a little more. And suddenly their social anxiety goes away. Their panic attacks fade away. And you go, oh, like what happened? Did you see a therapist? Did you see this? Did you see that? And yes, sometimes they do, 100%. But sometimes, well, most of the time they go, oh, I just started eating more. And I guess something that baffles me is GPs can be, and I'm not against medication by any means, but I do believe in exploring anxiety and what's causing it. And it's very easy to want to put someone on medication for anxiety without assessing certain things. And I guess all I'm trying to get at is if you are witnessing intense anxiety as a part of having HA or an eating disorder, please open yourself up to a professional or the literature, and you will see how common those two things are and how much alleviating one thing, such as just nourishing yourself, can dramatically reduce, if not make your anxiety disappear.
Well, of course, if your body is undernourished, it's going to be on a fight and flight state because it's looking for danger, it's looking for food. And something that I noticed that it's very common when women come to me, they're anxious and they're afraid of gaining weight. But you explain it so well. Their anxiety level is so high up, have reached and surpassed the threshold, which is why they feel so anxious about changing their habits, about gaining the weight. But as soon as you start nourishing yourself, as soon as you allow yourself to slow down, then these problems, they become non-problem, really, because your life changes in the most beautiful way. And there was also something else that I wanted to touch on that I don't want to forget later on. So many people, they just, many women especially, they say they exercise because of their health. They just want to make sure that they remain healthy. But if you don't have a menstrual cycle and you keep on exercising, well, first of all, your bone density is not going to be optimal. Doesn't matter how much strength training sessions you do, you're still going to lose bone mass. And you're not going to be able to recuperate it after age 35. So it's always something to watch out for. And I know that personally because I'm unfortunately dealing with a diagnosis of osteoporosis, thanks to my 15 years, past 15 years with an eating disorder. And secondly, the cardiovascular health is another big issue, because if you have low level of estrogen, your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, is gonna go through the roof. HDL, the good cholesterol, is gonna go down. And it has been shown that women without a menstrual cycle, so women with hypothalamic amenorrhea and women during menopause, they have a higher risk of a cardiac arrest. Actually, there was a study that I checked out before, and it says that 69% of young women with coronary artery disease have low level of estrogen. 69.
Wow.
So that goes to show how important it is to have running estrogen in the body and how important it is to recover.
Yeah. And then if you think about it too, it's like when there's hardcore evidence as to why these hormones are so important. And if you think about anything else in our body, because we're talking about a whole reproductive system on shutdown, and a big part of it could be a societal issue where it's sort of, women's hormones have been a little bit of the too hard basket for quite a long time. So there hasn't been a whole lot of research and exploration into it. And as we all know, if you go with a complaint about your cycle, a big band-aid is just jump on the pill, then there's no sort of massive inspection of what's causing it and why. But if you were to think about any other system in your body not working, you would be in emergency, getting tests and drips put in you and medication. And like if your kidney just stopped, no one's going to go, you've got another one. Like, no, that doesn't happen. And yet our reproductive system go, yeah, look, you'll live. Doesn't have to work. It's like that's That's not the attitude. Like there's so many functions involved with that system for a reason. Like we're the most perfectly constructed beings. Like everything is this magical instrument to make our life better and do all these wonderful things. And yet we go, oh, we've got no estrogen, whatever. And I think, the conversation needs to change. It's like, okay, it's down. How do we fix it? How do we fix it?
Having a monthly cycle can be also an inconvenience, especially for young women. They're not thinking about having kids at the moment. If you don't have a menstrual cycle, well, you can go to the beach whenever you want, especially if you live close to the beach,
it is
like
convenient.
we do. It's convenient.
I thought it too.
Yeah, you can have sex whenever you want, but having said that, you don't feel like having sex. So it's kind of counterintuitive from that perspective. And plus, if you don't have a menstrual cycle, you don't have to deal with the pain, the aches, and all of that. So I understand why some women, they're completely cool with the idea of not having it. But yeah, going to the doctor and being given a pill to fix your hormones, that's something that I cannot accept any longer. I've been in this industry for enough time to completely, I don't know, get upset and angry when someone comes to me and tell me that they've been on the oral contraceptive pill for 12 years of their life. Why? And my question sometimes is, did you go back to your GP? Did you check if you had to change brand, if you had to change dosage? Have you asked your GP to go on a break just to see if your body could do whatever it's meant to do? And most of them, they answer no, of course not. And when you get off from the oral contraceptive pill, most of the time, it's because one, you want to get a proper bleed because you want to make sure that your body is healthy and is functioning correctly. And secondly, because you want to have a child. And it's really dreadful to stop taking a medication after so many years because you want to have a child and being faced with an hypothalamic amenorrhea diagnosis. So I think that I got myself stuck in a rabbit hole. But yeah, that goes basically to say a pill is not going to fix it. The pill is not even going to fix your bone. It's not going to even protect your bones, let alone the rest of your body. So as I said before, it doesn't really matter if you want to have a child or not. The reality is that we have a reproductive system for a reason. Otherwise, we would have been made in a different way. We are meant to have a menstrual cycle because it affects our heart, our brain, and the rest of our system.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And
I wish that I knew all of the back
but
in
you know
the
what?
days.
That's one thing I love about the fact that we've got social media and podcasts and YouTubes and things like that, because it's, yes, we made mistakes. We took the pill. We didn't care about not having a period. But you know what? For the most part, we didn't know any better. And I'm very much for taking ownership of situations, 100%. And once I learnt more, I did. But a big part of me not having my period for that 6 years was just, it wasn't a big deal. And it wasn't fixable, and that's where our time with it was so different now, because now there's people out there going, hey, I've recovered, I've had my family, or I've recovered and I'm just happier. Like there's so much more to it. And I just lost my train of thought. But no, that's what I was saying. It's like we didn't know any better. But the fact that we can be out here and now educating women on all of these things, including just like even mental health side of things, there's going to be a change.
Is everything okay?
We're back. There was a little glitch.
Okay.
But I wonder how you feel about this one, Claudia, because I think part of it was me protecting myself when I used to go, oh, look, I'm just not meant to have kids. I'm just not meant to have kids, that's what God wanted, or whoever you believe in. And I think I was protecting myself from the idea of wanting them and then not being able to have them. So I'll just choose to believe not. And sometimes these questions come to me of, I don't want kids. So what's the point? Like, I'm happy, I'm healthy, that whole scenario. And I'm very open and honest with them in that respect, because it's like, I understand, because I was the same way. But then hindsight is a beautiful thing. And when I was willing to recognize that I actually did want children was when everything started to change. And sometimes I like to point out to the younger ones that have got HA that just because you don't want kids now doesn't mean that you're not going to want them later. And you're going to have a lot of regret around avoiding this process for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, only to wake up one day and go, oh gosh, because that's what it was like for me. I just woke up one day and went, oh, I really want a family. Like, it just hit me. And and I just say to them, not only do you want to be healthy for all of the reasons we've just described, but you owe it to yourself to be in a position that if you wake up one day and decide you want to start a family, you can.
100%. And I've noticed that we have a few women in our program at the moment that they've just turned 30 and all of a sudden it clicked, I want to have a family. And they join the program because at the moment they're struggling to get their period back. And we also have other women that are still part of the program that are much younger. They're not thinking about having kids. They're keeping their options open, obviously. They're dealing with a tremendous level of anxiety. And I had a conversation with a girl just last week that I think that her anxiety was borderline depressive. And after talking to her, I realized that she was undernourishing her body. So once again, for the younger women listening to this, protect your eggs, because you're producing eggs right now where you are in the present moment. So you need your eggs if you don't have children in the future. Secondly, protect your brain, because not having a period is going to affect how you feel on many levels. Social, with your body, with yourself, once again, spiritual level. And it's going to protect your brain also, if you think about what we talked before. Also, when it comes to fatigue, concentration, being able to memorize things, to perform at college, to perform at whatever you're doing. And these are two important things that I wish that every single woman from a very young age can keep in mind. And I grew up in a house where we talked about menstruation. It wasn't a taboo topic. And my daughter, she's 4. Whenever I have my period, she sees it. And I invite to women that have kids to actually introduce this topic of conversation and to normalize it from a very young age, because we have the chance right now to actually change the future generation. And it's something very powerful to do. So we have this great power in our hand at the moment. And it starts from us.
No, and I love that you said that, because it's only just popped into my mind now. And I think a big part of me not caring about losing my period when I did was because I always had such horrible periods as a teenager. Like, they were heavy, I had clots, they were painful. Like, honestly, I just remember it being chaos. Like, it was messy, it was and emotional, and all of a sudden, when I jumped on the pill and everything corrected itself, and then I jump off the pill and my period disappears, and it felt like the pill was the magic fixer elixir, and then just not having my period was an even better fixer elixir, because I didn't know any better. And I just wonder that if I had have had the education around, your periods don't have to be heavy, they don't have to be painful, they don't have to be, the curse, which a lot of us grew up with. It's like, oh God, you got your period, like that's the curse. It's all these horrible things. So then our generation sort of lost it, and it just didn't seem like a big deal, because, well, look at the nuisance that it brings on your life. Whereas if we can bring these newer generations into a place where we protect ourselves so we can have really pleasant periods, because that's possible if we look after our health well enough, that we can have, some cramping and things like that. Yes, it's just part of it. But the debilitating side of things, the debilitating side of things, it absolutely doesn't have to be that way. And I love that you're introducing that to your daughter so soon, which is like, this is a part of life, and literally owning it. Like, it's something that makes us so special. Like, it's such a powerful, incredible thing that our body does every month. And the past, 10 years of events has led me to a place where I look at a female's cycle and go, wow, that is just magic. Like, it's the most incredible thing. And it's beautiful that we can hopefully create that mindset for younger generations now.
Yeah, and if you look back at the civilization, back in the days, when women didn't have tampons, when women didn't have pads, when they had a menstrual cycle, what did they do? They had to sit down, they had to slow down, they had to sit on Mother Earth so the earth could absorb the blood. That's how it was back then. And they were taken care of by the rest of the society, because having a menstrual cycle would mean being fertile. And that was really important for a community. And so if instead of looking at like a nuisance, something that we have to get rid of, something that is painful, we look at what it really is for a woman and for the community, the ability of procreate, then it becomes something really magic, something that we have to defend, something that we have to fight for, instead of something to shut down with a pill. And mind you, if you're a mom of a teenager and you see that your daughter is struggling with the period, I understand that it's really normal to go to a GP and ask your daughter to take a pill. That's, of course, as a mom, you want to protect your child as much as you can. And possibly, it's a very personal choice. But before take that action, if you have a teenager, for example, I invite you to take her to a naturopath or a nutritionist, try the cycle syncing for at least 4 to 6 months, see if that improves. And Jade is going to talk much more about cycle syncing in the future. And then the option can be a plan B. And if she decides to take the pill every year, let's go and talk to the GP. Can we get off the pill? Can we try again? Can we reconsider? Can we change brand? Can we try something else? So it's not only about, okay, I start taking the pill and I stop in 12 years from now. Always be aware that whenever you take a pill, you're shutting down your reproductive system. And when it comes to cycle syncing, and then I'm gonna cut the story short, a client of mine, 19 years of age, she came to me 5 months ago, debilitating period. She had to stay home from school for 2 days, massive pain, lots of Nurofen, lots of painkillers. She vomited every single time. Horrible. She's fine now. 5 months. That's all it took. She was in excruciating pain from the age of 13 until the age of 5 months ago.
Wow.
But that goes to show that just a few tweaks and few changes, and just also waiting the time for the hormones to rebalance themselves, we can change that. It doesn't have to be a pill or pain. There are so many layers in between. And sorry, I think that
No, that was absolutely perfect.
Rabbit hole this time.
No, it was absolutely perfect, because I love what you brought up, especially those first few cycles, and I'll zip it pretty soon too, is that it's quite normal for women for those first year or two to have some irregularities and craziness, because their body's just working out what to do, how to do it. But as you said, with strategies in place and observations from someone such as a naturopath or a nutritionist, that can be like mediated in a more holistic approach that not only has regulated those symptoms, but also they've learned something that's going to keep their cycle regular for the rest of their life, where you're never going to get that from a pill. But I also like how you said, even if you're in a position where the pill is the only option for now, like, just keep reassessing it though, go off for 6 months, jump back on, go off. Everyone's story is going to be different, but there's just so many different ways you can go about it. And I guess at the core is learning how your individual body works, which, falls in HA, PCOS, endometriosis, all of it. all of it sort of links us back there. But no, thank you for bringing that up, because it's really, really important.
And just a little disclaimer, if you start taking the pill or you get off the pill, always talk to your healthcare provider. Never try medications on your own. Never try anything weird out there. Just always speak to a medical professional.
Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful place for us to wrap things up, Claudia. And as always, it's such a pleasure chatting with you. And now, so this is our podcast today, and it's also going to be up on YouTube, which is exciting. And then if you enjoy talking with Claudia and I and listening in, as you know, we've got the Empowered Health Program, where we're joining up together to help women get their period back by looking at their nutrition, their mindset, their exercise. We're just there to give you all the hugs and support and education that you need to get through. So thanks, Claudia.
Thanks for having me, Jade, and I'll speak to you soon again.
Absolutely. Now, guys, I'll link Claudia's details in the show notes. She's at Nourish by Claudia on Instagram, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.